Happy New Year! Akemashite omedetou gozaimasu. My name is Keith Nakaganeku. I'm certified sake sommelier with the Cherry Company, and I want to thank all of you for coming here today to the virtual New Year's celebration. I hope that 2021 has been a good year so far for all of you. I want to thank JASH for inviting me back for this sake workshop series. This is the second in the sake workshop series. Today we're going to talk about the different sake classifications. I'm sure you've seen them on the sake bottles where you see Tokubetsu Jumai, Jumai Ginjo, Ginjo, Dai Ginjo. What do all of those classifications mean? Well, actually, there are 8 classifications for premium sake. And these classifications are normally based upon, generally based upon the polishing or the milling of the rice grain before brewing. See, the middle of the rice grain has the starch. So the closer you come to that starch in the middle, the more pure you're going to have of pure flavor you're going to have of that particular rice strain. Surrounding that starch is proteins and amino acids, those type of things that add flavor and different characteristics to the sake. So just because something isn't really finely milled doesn't mean that it's good or bad. It's just a different flavor profile and different characteristics to the sake. So what we're going to do is actually, out of those 8 classifications, we're going to split them up into 2 groups. The first group is going to be called the Jumai group. In order to be considered a Jumai sake, the sake can only have 4 ingredients: rice, water, koji, and yeast. That's it. Those are the only ingredients that are used to be able to brew the sake. If it's only those 4 ingredients, it's considered a Jumai sake. Now, if the rice grain is milled to between 70 and 60%, that means 70 or 60% of the rice grain is left after milling or polishing, you have what's called a special or tokubetsu Jumai sake. If the rice grain is milled to between 60 and 50% left, you have a Jumai Ginjo sake. Now, if the rice grain is milled to 50% or less, now you have a Jumai Dai Ginjo sake. Okay. Now, the second group of sake classification would be the Honjozo type of sake. Honjozo type of sake means that brewer's alcohol is actually added into the mix. Now, originally, after World War II, there are not a lot of resources available in Japan, but people still wanted to be able to drink sake. So what they did was they added this brewer's alcohol into the mix to be able to stretch the sake and to be able to shorten the time period in order to be able to make sake. So initially it was done for purely economic reasons, but what they found is that by adding this brewer's alcohol, they opened up a whole new facet of flavors to sake. So while initially it was done purely for economic reasons, now people brew this type of Honjozo type of sake for the flavor as well as economic reasons too. So in the Honjozo type of sake, in order to be considered in this premium classification of Honjozo, the sake, the rice has to be milled to at least 70%, and there can only be a maximum of 10% of brewer's alcohol added by volume. Okay, so if there's more than 10% brewer's alcohol added, or the rice grain is not milled to 70%, it's not considered in this premium sake classification. It's considered what we call futsushu, or just ordinary sake. Okay, so again, if it's milled to 70%, 10% added brewer's alcohol, you have a Honjozo sake. Now, if the rice grain is milled to between 70 and 60%, we have a special or tokubetsu Honjozo sake. If between 60 and 50%, you have a Ginjo sake, and 50% or less is left of the rice grain before brewing, you have a Dai Ginjo sake. Now, again, if there's only 4 ingredients to make the sake: rice, water, koji, and yeast, you have a Jumai sake. Okay, so if you have a Jumai sake, it would always state Jumai. That's how you can tell between a Ginjo and a Jumai Ginjo, for example. In other words, on the bottle, on the label, if it just says Ginjo, doesn't say Jumai on it, then it's this Honjozo type of sake. Okay, if it's a Jumai type of sake, it will always state Jumai on it. Okay? Now, the purpose of this classification was originally done for tax reasons, but that went out pretty fast. But now people kind of look at this and they kind of say, well, that means that the best quality of sake would probably be the Daiginjo or the Jumai Daiginjo type of sake, right? Well, actually, no. Basically, the best sake is the best sake for your particular occasion. Okay, because in generalities, this Jumai Ginjo, Jumai Daiginjo, Daiginjo Ginjo type of sakes, those type of sakes tend to be light and fragrant. So they're very good to be paired with light and fragrant type of food, or light type of food. So let's say if you're eating sushi or sashimi, those type of things, maybe a Jumai Daiginjo or Jumai Ginjo type of sake might be the best. However, if you're eating something more hearty or something more substantial like otoro or hamachi that has oil and fat to it that make it a little bit more substantial, maybe the Jumai Daiginjo or Ginjo type of sake might get lost in the flavors. And that's why you might want to have something that has a little more robust flavor to it. Might be a Tokubetsu Jumai, or even a Honjozo type of sake. Might be a better pairing for that type of food. Okay? So again, what's the best sake? Maybe not the most expensive sake, but the sake that actually fits the occasion. That would be the best sake for that occasion. Okay? And I think maybe that's all the time that we have today. So I hope that this basic information that you got will give you enough information so that next time you go and purchase sake, you can kind of choose which one fits your occasion. Kanpai!